Today I'm doing a Q&A and we're going to be covering some of the most common questions that I get about my journey with tarot. So what first sparked my interest in tarot? I've always been kind of drawn to the mystical, the things that just don't really make sense about our reality and our world that we live in. All of the weird, spooky stuff that goes on, I've always been drawn to that. It always kind of fascinated me how people can flip a card and get a message from it. How can they connect with that energy? And how can their messages be so relevant, so accurate? And that really drew me in. How did they make this work? So I've always seen tarot around, but it was only recently that I actually started getting familiar with tarot and picking it up for myself. Did I have a defining moment or experience that led to me to start reading? I'd say one of the biggest things that got me to start reading is actually a passing of someone very close to me. 5 years ago, my mum passed, and it was a devastating time for not only me, but everyone in the family. She was the centre pin that kind of held everything together. Everybody would end up at mum's house. She'd always cook a meal that fed an army, and that would be our space. That would be the space that we would all gather in, that we'd all share in. So when she passed, not only me, but all of us felt really lost. Now, I believe my mum's passing actually triggered a bit of a spiritual awakening in several of us in the family, creating this chain of events that we weren't even aware that was happening. We started doing things like seeing mediums. We've always been open to that side of things. Some of us, not all, but those of us that were, we delved into it head first. We wanted to try to understand what happens after we pass. How do mediums connect with loved ones? How can they hear what they have to say? And it's that got me into tarot. I bought my first deck and I started just working with them. And then from then, this whole chain of events have started. And it's led me into the incredibly fortunate position that I'm in today. So if I could put it down to one experience, it's that. Without that, I don't know where I'd be today. Were you skeptical at first, or did you feel drawn to it right away? It's funny because as a newcomer, I had this understanding of the cards before I even started. I could look at an image and get a message or a feeling or pick up the energy of that card. But I didn't fully know how to read it. All the tiny little things that you need to look out for. So I've always felt that I'm drawn to cards. And actually, since developing my reading skill, I feel like I've actually spent more than one lifetime reading cards. It came very naturally, and I almost had an inner wisdom there that I could rely on. I could ask questions, but I could more importantly trust the answers that came back. But I was skeptical. I've seen people using tarot, and I didn't fully understand how that worked. I didn't know a lot about energy at the time. I didn't know a lot about the other side and the spirits and guides and ancestors. I also didn't know the way that those could come through, how to give those messages. I always kind of thought, why would they give messages? So yeah, I was a little bit skeptical, probably more skeptical in my own ability. You see these confident people just delivering messages, connecting with loved ones. But I didn't ever think that was something that I could do. I felt like you needed to have a special gift to do that, and that not just anybody could pick this up. I was very wrong. But I did feel this incredible pull towards tarot. The different kind of cards you could get, the shuffling, the way they come out, the way you interpret the images, it all spoke to me, and I found that fascinating. Oh, this is a good one. How did you learn tarot? So I'm mostly self-taught. I say mostly because how many of us are actually self-taught? Now, I spent probably about 3 or 4 years just being in and around tarot. I'd pick it up whenever I felt drawn to, and I'd put it down whenever I didn't. And that slow process without any kind of pressure enabled me to learn them at my own pace. I never knew I would be doing this, not in my wildest dreams. So when I began, I just taught myself. I spent hours looking at the cards, watching YouTube videos on it, reading books, anything I could get my hands on, articles, opinions, videos, other people's perspectives on tarot. I surrounded myself with everything. I done exercises like rewriting the meanings in a book. Now at the time I was only doing that so I could have a reference point that I could go back to. But actually through doing that exercise, it enabled me to learn a lot of the meanings, but also the common themes throughout all of the cards. So I don't think I can say that I'm self-taught. I don't think anybody can. Because we intake so much information, it's more of a collective learning. So all of those people that I did learn from and helped shape me, thank you. You've made me into the reader that I am today. What does tarot mean to you personally? It's a tool, is the best way I can put it. It's a tool that helps us self-reflect. Tarot for me is incredibly personal. I know everybody has their own views on tarot, but for me, it's all for self. I'm not going to use it to find out about somebody else's energy. I'm going to use it to know how I can progress on this journey that I'm on. So you could say that I use it for a real self-healing, self-development side. I use it to get in touch with my spiritual, whether that's to know things that I need to practice or things that I might not be aware of, but also to help process feelings that I'm experiencing. If I'm unsure about where to move forward to, I'll pull some cards. I'll spend some time with those cards and see what kind of emotions it brings up within me. And if I'm really honest, tarot's a lifeline. When there's nobody else to turn to and you just don't know who else to ask, being able to sit quietly somewhere, give yourself a little bit of space and time to practice this, to see what messages are coming through. And when you have nobody that you want to share that with, or you might not feel comfortable to, I think that's incredibly important. How has tarot impacted your life? I mean, I'm now doing this, which I get so much joy and fulfillment out of. I've always enjoyed helping other people, but this tarot reading, and just any form of divination in general, whether it's runes, palmistry, or oracle, the ability to help people, to make people feel seen and heard, just holding space for those people to hear what they're going through, that is probably how tarot has impacted me the most. Learning how to trust my intuition, learning how to trust the direction that I'm moving in, but also to be there for others, to hold that space, to listen to how they're feeling when it seems like nobody else wants to take those highs and lows just as they come, knowing that it's all part of life. But more importantly, tarot has given me something to rely on. It's always there, especially if I feel like I need to ask a question or to get some guidance, I can always turn to it. And just having that kind of stability, that thing always there that you can rely on, especially to tell the truth, it's invaluable to me. So not only has it completely changed my life with what I'm doing here on TikTok and YouTube, but it's also brought this, that sense of community. The people that I have around me now, constantly lifting me up, constantly showing me love and support. I never thought I would actually have that. And you guys are always there for me. And now I feel like I've built a second family that I can always rely on. One that we can go to whenever anything's going on. The ones that we can turn to and ask those questions, to have those difficult conversations with. Or maybe it's just there to hold space. So yeah, tarot has definitely impacted my life. And would I go back? Not at all. Are there any struggles you faced when learning tarot? I'd say the biggest one is probably people's opinions. I'm quite wary of who I share that information with. I've just really started my tarot journey and I know I'm still in the early stages, but I also know that other people can have some very strong opinions about it. And I believe that everybody is entitled to those opinions, and it's not actually my job to sway you in the way of tarot or not, but it's those opinions. It's the energy that you feel. But those opinions definitely do have an effect. And the other thing I'd say I struggled with is learning the cards. I spent 3 or 4 years off and on just getting to know tarot. Like I said, I had no pressure on me learning tarot. It was just something fun to do. I really enjoyed it and I was incredibly drawn to it. But that pressure of learning the cards, giving readings, trying to remember all the meanings, that was probably one of the hardest things. Along with trusting yourself, believing the messages that are coming through, but also believing that you, yourself, are able to give those messages. That you're being trusted with that for a specific reason. That's how it's helped my intuition so much. It's helped me connect back with myself and to trust that. Do you read professionally or just for yourself? I've always read for myself, and I'd actually highly recommend it for people. But you do have to be incredibly honest with yourself. You can't bend a reading just to make it fit. You shouldn't put cards back into the pile just because they don't align with that kind of message that you wanted to get that day. So yeah, I'd always recommend reading for yourself. But I'm now incredibly fortunate to be in a position where I can do this professionally. This is my day job. which is kind of nuts. And I never expected it to get to this point, but I am incredibly, incredibly grateful that it did. And hey, whatever life has got in store for me next, I'm ready for it. Are there any rituals or practices you do before and after readings? That's a really good question. I do want to do a full video talking about this, but yes, there is. Now, before I do any kind of readings, whether that's online, in person, private reading, or on live, I always give myself a chance to come back to center. I'll spend 5 or 10 minutes just breathing, holding a few crystals that might help with areas that I think there might be blockages. There are a few go-to, like I always have a clear quartz to help open my mind. I always have an amethyst to help with those messages coming through and that clarity. And I always use some kind of blue or green crystal. Now, normally I use this one for my throat, making sure that the throat is open to communicate those messages, but also a green crystal for the heart space, making sure that I can feel the empathy of those messages. And I'll just give myself time to come back into center. I'll ask for help with the readings from spirit, guides, or ancestors, and I'll ask that the messages are always of our highest self. I'll allow myself to calm and to come back to center, then I know I'm ready. And if at any point where I feel like I might need to do that again, I'll just do it. Don't try to force it. If you feel like you need to come back to center, do that. And especially after the readings as well, I think it's very important that you sever any cords that you've attached to yourself while doing readings. We become attached to people asking those questions so that we can feel the energy of that. It's kind of automatic, and it is something to be aware of. But after you're done, cut those cords. Do that in any way you feel fit, whether that's using incense to cut those cords and clear that energy, or maybe it's a visualization technique you use. Maybe it's just a little bit of meditation or grounding outside. But always cut those cords, and again, bring yourself back to center. And remember that if you are cutting those cords, send them out with loving, healing energy. And feel that. Feel that loving energy fill you up and send them out. It will help the people that you're reading for. It will make you feel better too. I really hope that you enjoyed this little Q&A together today. But I'm curious, how is it that you got into tarot? I'd love to know down in the comments. But thank you again for joining me out in the forest today. I hope you have a really lovely day, and I'll see you in the next one.